Good observation, yes. Jaw stone right now. It's a party now. You know how much Diamond Day means to me, and how much intention I put into every single detail of it, and how I ask you to trust the process, stay attuned, take the opportunities as soon as you see them, before you overthink and negotiate with them. Have you all been doing that so far? Yeah. Have you all been having an amazing experience so far? Awesome. So my presentation is called The Enemy of Freedom. And it begins with a very important message I have about the 6-month goals we set yesterday. But before I share that message, I want to share that in listening to the takeaways that some of you so earnestly and powerfully and kindly shared yesterday, and in observing and being with you all at dinner, I wondered, I thought, as I tend to do as a thinking person, I wondered about those of you who I know felt a little bit nervous about coming, weren't sure if you really belonged. Do you understand now that you do belong? That's awesome, because that's why I created this. And that leads me to my very important message about your 6-month goals. Because the 5 enemies of freedom are exactly what will fuck you up from achieving those goals. And this begins with a story about an aha moment that I had in my life. And that was when I was pitching as a copywriter the highest ticket project of my life. Multiple 5 figures, percentage on the front and on the back. Really, really big deal. I had many, many phone calls with this prospect. I hate phone calls. For me, not my preferred communication medium. Emma Rainville calls me, I don't answer it. Stephen Georgi calls me, I don't answer it. But I'm trying my best, So I'm getting on phone call after phone call after phone call. And I think that I'm doing everything right, I'm asking them all of the right questions. I'm giving the right value. I'm showing them my huge backlog of results and past successes and proof. I'm doing the right math for them. I created an irresistible offer for them. But by the time this prospect asked me, let's go over it one more time, I realized I was not free. Something was missing, even though I felt like I was doing everything right. And with that, other shit crept in. The self-doubt, right? Well, maybe I'm not really worth it. Damn, what do I need? Should I go back into overdrive? Do I need another win, another precious win, to finally prove it? What's going on here? And rather than get on that 18th phone call, I made a bold choice, and I fired my prospect. I told him it wasn't a fit. He was a bit shocked, too. And it felt good for me to do that, but it also felt a bit scary, of course. I was like, am I closing some sort of door here? I don't know what's going to happen next. Well, what happened next is that I made more money and became more free than I ever was before. Yeah. And I know you might be like, how? Well, I launched the things I wanted to launch, my own offers, Eden Beauty, Diamond Day. I invested in myself and grew masterminds, mentorships, into my own companies, and even into the markets, which even right now, today, I'm still up quite a bit. And because I kept showing up, I became a helper and a leader with the freedom to pursue whatever I want. And then I realized, oh my God, this is something the incredible Dan Sullivan, Joe mentioned yesterday, strategic coach, teaches. Freedom to. Because over here, I was searching for freedom from, right? And this was despite, again, doing everything right and being on some scoreboards successful. Money, wins, a little bit of a player. But I still did not have the freedom from feeling like I have to prove myself all of the fucking time. I still did not have the freedom from the self-doubt, right? And I still didn't have the freedom from feeling very alone during this whole process. And as for you, what are you still not free from? Everybody in this room works incredibly hard. It's likely that your bank account has the most money in it that it ever had, right? And I know personally that many of you are going through what I like to call level up challenges, getting better organized, building a team, doing the inner work, and so on. So maybe you want freedom from that disorganization, that freedom from working 24/7, that freedom from the time constraints and the sacrifices that you have to make. And maybe you want the freedom from wondering Am I ever really going to make it? Or am I ever really going to be okay no matter what? Maybe you want the freedom from feeling lonely, being misunderstood, and feeling like a weirdo, which is something I wanted freedom from for a really long time. And what do you want the freedom to do? For me, launch Diamond Day. I had the freedom to do this. I do this because I want to do this, right? So what do you want to do? Write a book? Speak? Build your own community? Launch something that nobody would ever fucking expect? Do you want the freedom to feel like you're going to be okay no matter what? And the freedom to feel like you belong and you deserve? And most importantly, who do you want and need to be supported by to make that happen? Here's a hint. Look around the fucking room. As we've established many times, this is one of the best groups of people like ever. The most giving, the most collaborative, the most kind. There's been no withholding people in here. There's nobody who does not encourage the person next to them in here. And we're all quite good looking as well, which is great. So keep that in mind as we go through these enemies and friends of freedom, okay? Enemy number 1, not being clear, honest, and a fierce defender who owns what you really want. She's a motherfucker, I'll tell you. So what's the friend of this? Being a clear, honest person who fiercely defends and owns what you really want. Gee, thanks, Laura. Easier said than done. How do we do that? Well, here's how we begin to do that. We stop the judgment and moralism over what we really want, you know? We established yesterday that nobody in here wants to be a warlord, right? Now, granted, Perry Belcher was not in attendance to make that promise, but I believe it still holds true of everyone in the room. So therefore, the judgment, I shouldn't want that, can go away. You want what you want to be a better you, oftentimes to make the world better and the people around you better, right? When Bianca Jade had us do that amazing exercise yesterday, did you judge what you put in the circle? What if you did? What a shame that would be, right? Stop comparing what you want to what everybody else wants. That's looking for better. That ties into the stuff Rich taught us. There's no need to compare. It can be exactly what you want, and it should be. It is for a reason. And use your mentors and comrades. Why do we enjoy having multi-hour-long conversations with one another? Because we get it. We understand each other. We get some sort of clarity through them, do we not, James? Oh, fuck yes. So those are the friends of freedom number 1. They sound simple, but it's like a shower, right? I promise it works if you do it. Here's the enemy of freedom number 2. Taking actions that don't line up with what you really want. She's a motherfucker. What's the friend? Take actions that line up with what you really want. So how do we do this? We diamond plan. For me, that's very, very, very light planning. It's literally creating the container for the magic of life to fall into. So for the book I want to write, I just write out the working title. That's it. That's my plan. And then everything that starts to happen around me has a place for me to put it to. So if you have 3 of 4, however many of those containers going at once, all of the magic of life can get sorted in a way that serves you and advances you towards what you really want. Does that make sense? And you'll regularly assess how your actions are lining up with the plan, because we got desires, actions, and the outcomes from all that, right? And there you are. You're coincidentally a hologram, but that's neither here nor there. And there's what you want, what you say you want. And you do this, you do that, you do that, you take your actions, and then you get there. Wow. But of course, it's not always that simple. Most of the time, it's not that simple. Or you do a little of this, a little of this, a little of that, and maybe you end up with something just as good. Maybe that thing is what you really wanted all along. And maybe that's fine. Or maybe it's something slightly different, maybe a little bit lesser than that. You're like, okay, I can make some tweaks, get me to the gold star. Or maybe it's something that confirms your limiting belief, or your bad habits, or the patterns that don't serve you, and you end up there. There's directionality here. And you could use this in your unlined notebooks to quite literally write the circle of, okay, what is it that I want? What is action step ABC? But then you go back and you reassess. So if I want to write the book, but I, drank a ton, this week and I didn't write anything, that would be a different action. So on and so forth. That would lead me to the red X, right? That's the gold star of my book. Make sense? What this means is that 1 degree of a shift towards what you really want is exponential. So it starts with just 1 degree at a time. Good so far? Awesome. That's important to me. Enemy of freedom number 3, anxiety. She's a motherfucker. And we can all agree anxiety is pretty prevalent, right? And I first heard this from Dan Nicholson, who attributes it to Chip Conley, and so on and so forth, the lineage of information. Anxiety equals uncertainty times powerlessness. It's multiplicative, so any tiny boost in either one has an exponential effect on the anxiety, and it's distributive. Social anxiety equals social uncertainty times social powerlessness, financial anxiety, and so on and so forth. So how do we decrease either the uncertainty or the powerlessness to get the anxiety to go down? The first part of that, and the first part of the freedom, is actually repositioning anxiety. It is not this dichotomous, we gotta cut it out, we gotta get rid of it. No, we simply have to shift it because there's an optimal level of tension, arousal, or anxiety that brings you peak performance. That makes sense because you care. Anxiety means you care, right? So how do we get that shift? Conviction and power, the opposite of uncertainty and powerlessness. Socially, let's say, one way you can have more conviction and power is to talk less and listen more. This is great for groups like this when some of us feel socially anxious, right? You're not just talking less, you're listening with an intent to learn. You're more empowered when you walk into an interaction with this in your mind. Now you don't have to talk to prove yourself. I gotta prove that I have value and that I'm funny, and I'm quick on my feet, and I gotta say this. I gotta let them know that I knew about that. Somebody tells me something, oh, I know that. You just hang back, listen. Ask a question instead. Because when you're listening with intent to learn, the questions will come. And they'll often be really good. And one of the things I used to do, because I'm a curious person and I ask a lot of questions, that's how I've cultivated a lot of relationships in this room. But what I used to do is like, that question might be like too deep or too awkward or too personal. I can't ask that. But I've reframed that thinking into, that's the fucking question I gotta ask. That's the good shit. And nearly everyone is like, ooh, good question. And it starts a dialogue. But if I'm focused on talking all the time, that never happens. So talk less and listen more. Talk honestly. Again, this is the perfect room to do it because you're so understood and received here. Talk honestly about your emotional state. Even in groups of us, I have said, I feel anxious right now. We're also compassionate. You're like, oh, you want a glass of water? Or why do you think that is? You immediately feel less anxious. You've taken more certainty, more conviction, more power. And if the weekend can say, and I sweat too much on the regular, then you can honestly communicate about how you're feeling. And consider this. The greats are often eccentric. Look at Ron. Elon Musk was eccentric before he got rich. Mark Zuckerberg was eccentric before he got rich. So if you want to be great in one way or another, why would you do normal? Why would you try to be normal? Doesn't make sense. But you can tap into your own eccentricities, your own differences, and it will actually reduce your anxiety because you have more power. Here's another way to reduce and reposition the anxiety. It's one of my favorite ways of thinking. I swear to God, I think like this like 50 to 100 times per week. And it's how I deal with the unknown. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And of course, all possibilities in between. So whenever I am slipping into judgment and I'm reflecting, right? Was I a little bit aggressive there? As I can be sometimes, in my own opinion. I just like, yeah, definitely. And move on. I was like, did that person take my joke the wrong way? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And then I can move on. I am so excited for the next time you guys start getting in your head over shit like this, and you think, Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And then you can move on. You're so much more powerful. In the unknowing, you're maintaining your conviction even in the unknown. And that will reposition your anxiety. Sound good? We're at 3 of 5. Still doing good? Awesome. Thank you. So we'll move to the 4th enemy of freedom, low confidence. And most people totally fuck up the definition of confidence. Even a very recent article in Forbes magazine. I was embarrassed to read it because they got it so wrong. Confidence is often conflated with self-esteem. Sure, one relates to the other. Sure, they play around. But there's an important distinction. Confidence is your trust in your ability to complete a task. The task is essential in confidence. Self-esteem is like how you feel about yourself. Like, oh yeah, I'm like kind of smart, kind of cute, whatever. Shit like that. So given that, the friend of low confidence is confidence, of course. So how do we boost confidence? Well, we make the task easier. If confidence is relative to the task, yeah, there are lots of levers you could pull, like practice a lot, improve your talent, learn, and all this. But everybody neglects the side of, well, how do I make the task easier? Everybody in this room is incredibly confident in their ability to stand up and walk to the back of the room. Easy task. How can we do that for other things? Well, for one, you could follow instructions. Follow some fucking instructions. Use the models that you resonate with. Meredith said it. People come up here and they tell you X, Y, Z, and people don't do it. You don't follow the instructions. The instructions for any and everything you want to achieve likely already exist and are free. So why do you keep making the task so hard? It's going to hurt your confidence. Tap your community and your mentor or mentors. Guess what? It's harder to complete tasks alone. It's going to hurt your confidence. Simple. Guarantee it works. As I move on to enemy of freedom, number 5, we come to low deservedness. After all, if I feel like my DNA is dirty, then I don't deserve shit, right? So everything kind of gets fucked up. And I definitely don't desire to be the most that I can be. That rung on Maslow's chart, I don't get there. Because I'm feeling so poorly, I don't have the desire to be the most that I can be. So what is the friend of this? Celebration. This is the first one that's not a polar opposite. Because celebration, in fact, includes so much more than deservedness. It involves community, understanding, acceptance, belonging, power, action taking. All of this happens together when we celebrate. And you're giving to yourself. By giving to yourself, you're increasing your deservedness, right? I talked about my love of breaking things down to their fundamental forms. That's like as fundamental as I could get it. Give to yourself. It will improve your deservedness. And all good things start at home. You are your home. So you need to start it with you. Make sense? Yes. Awesome. And here's the recap of that. And it's quite funny now that I've broken them down. The polar opposites seem so much more clear, right? And it's not just like, yeah, of course, Laura. It's the opposite. So I thought that was interesting. So that's to recap our 5 friends and our 5 enemies of freedom. And during the last day and a half, we've also talked about stuff like what risk means really, how to grow your self-worth through understanding, how to increase confidence, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and lots of stuff. Now, all of that is keeping in mind that your journey will not be the same as mine. And I opened with my firing a prospect story, which, of course, I'm going to come full circle on in just a moment. But what I know, and when I see you, is that this is not all from a purely intellectual understanding, right? I see the future that is available to each and every one of you because I've lived it. I'm living it real time. And that future is you feeling as free as I feel right now, this moment, on this stage, getting to do this for you, with you, and for me, right? And maybe some of you guys think I'm cool or whatever. Yeah, Laura launched Diamond Day. Wow, it's so cool that she did that. She wears the bodysuit. Whoa, it's cool. I see you as cool. I see you as so cool. And I see you able to feel as free as you feel that I feel. That's a lot of feels, but do you feel that? Thank you. I know you can feel as cool, as free, as supported, and as seen as I feel right now. That is certainty for me. And given what you know now, I'm going to ask you a few questions. Remember, Diamond Day is a baby of a brand, 6 months old. You are my OGs. You're my fucking OGs in here, my heart. So, given what you know now, do you see how important it is to consistently work with your friends of freedom? Yes? Clearly owning and defending what you really want. Taking actions that line up with it. Conviction and power. Confidence and celebration. It is worth everything it takes to achieve this. Do you agree? Are you beginning to see that you, the eccentric you, is worthy of being understood? Yes? Do you see how you can better structure your systems, businesses, and life the more you understand yourself without judgment? Yes? Do you see why fiercely owning and defending what you truly want is worth everything it takes to achieve? Yeah, I asked it twice. Let's say it twice. Yes. Are you beginning to see how much of an advantage this is for you? Because most people are drifting. You did not come here and invest your time, attention, money, energy, and effort, your Tammy, you did not invest that to drift, did you? No, hell no. So it is a huge advantage for you. And given what you know now, even if you only use a fraction of what we've done so far, would you say your time, investment, and energy was well spent? Yes. So it's fair for me to say, you're happy you came to Diamond Day too. Yes. Fuck yes. Here's what I know. I want you to feel full deservedness to achieve what you want. And I want that bad. I want you to feel that bad. Stefan knows it. He opened with it, right? I'll run out of the room. I'll run down the stairs, my underwear, 3 a.m. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, Whitney cracked 10K this month. I'm going back to bed. It is real. Here's another thing that I know. Deep-rooted beliefs, patterns, the familiar, the leashes, they will always win if you let them. They're very powerful. Here's another thing I know. A long time horizon gives you a tremendous advantage if you spend that time in a way that serves you. But it will wreck you if you spend that time negotiating with yourself. If you spend that time alone, without a community, and without the support that it gives you. It will wreck you if you spend that time giving yourself reasons to hide and be afraid. And it will absolutely destroy you if you spend that time acting out of alignment with what you want. And remember, at the end of the day, what we get are the results from doing what we want or the reasons we didn't. But none of us are prey to that, because look around the room. Really, look around. Look around, look around. How lucky we are to be alive right now. How many of you agree that you have curated some incredible connections here? Hell yes. Whether it's with the speakers, the people at your table, people across the table, maybe even with yourself. That's why Diamond Day exists. This is why I made it. I made it just as much for me as for you. That should be obvious. I put myself in crazy outfits. I'm like, look at me. And there's nothing quite like seeing one of your visions come to life. Nothing. I just said that. The connections here that give you the understanding and the belonging and the fun and the knowledge that you crave, right? And some access to hot-ass fire mentors as well, which Stefan brought up the value of, Meredith brought up the value of. None of that shit was planned. It's not planned, by the way. You see commonalities and themes throughout all of the presentations here because this is the shit we do. Because this is what works. And I want you guys to think about the magic that's going to happen by the end of the year just from what's being created in this room yesterday and today. And remember this, our community's nickname, the WSM. Yeah. Shoe change, that's right. Great observation, Mary. I was like, okay, that's the duration I could do those shoes. And I brought like 5 different pairs. Actually, Emma brought me these because optionality is important. I have $100 in my hand for whoever comes to get it first. Jack weight, everyone. So always pay close attention. In fact, let's run Jack over a diamond, too. Compounding wins for the brave. Did you run up? Only Jack did. So for the rest of you, the question is, why not? And of course, there's some logical shoes. Proximity, the folks in the back of the room, might not make too much sense for them to go for it. You thought somebody else would beat you to it. You didn't know if I was for real. Maybe you don't want the money. You feel like somebody else should have it. Or perhaps you don't want to appear thirsty or greedy or any other reason. But it's curious, right? Some of us will more quickly run to it, to the opportunity, and others will hang back. Neither is wrong, but in our quest for understanding, it would be useful for you to know why you did what you did, and for most of you did not do. So a huge reason that Diamond Day came to be was because I found myself being asked by coaching clients, other copywriters, other folks in business, Laura, how do you do it? You're a mom, you're a wife, you got an entrepreneur husband. How does that work? You do a lot of things. How? And so I'm going to share some of my journey with you to answer that question of how, to credentialize myself, and to show you a path to becoming more of a leader in whatever that means to you. So in 2008, I graduate from college. I enjoyed my college experience. I don't poo-poo college. But I had a $200,000 debt and no job. And one night, at 2, maybe 3 in the morning, after working commission-only gigs, doing business-to-business sales in the Bronx, walking from dry cleaner to bodega to try to switch their energy plan, which was moderately shady. I didn't feel very good about it, and being rejected a lot. I also worked briefly at a deli, so one thing I could teach you in 10 minutes is how to make a great bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup sandwich on a roll, in my opinion, is how you should have it. And that's where it was. So at 2 or 3 a.m., kind of desperate, I Googled the phrase, how to make money online. And here we are. I learned how to do it. I followed the directions. And that started with freelance copywriting, right? I discovered what it is. I had always fancied myself a writer. Hundreds of notebooks filled, journaling, nonfiction, short stories, plays, lots and lots of poems. And so when I learned that copywriting was not something a lawyer does, but was the type of writer that makes money, I decided, oh, okay, I'm gonna be that type of writer. I had experience in sales, I liked marketing, it all made perfect sense. And because it all made perfect sense, I found success with it pretty easily. I made 6 figures in my first year, and I continued to do so ever since. As we grow and evolve, our businesses grow and evolve. So between 2012 and 2018, I scale into a marketing services agency. That's how you scale freelance. You make an agency. So I had other writers, designers, developers, integration folks, whatever my clients might need to get their funnels, assets, and the like online. And then I turned some of that inward for myself. And I launched 3 health supplement offers of my own with varying degrees of success. They were all high revenue. The one that had the highest revenue cost me $100,000. And the one that had the lowest revenue made me the most profit, as it goes. For some of you, I'm sure that doesn't sound very surprising. But I learned a ton. And I gradually felt more and more free, because now I don't have to answer to clients, and I can do more of what I want. I get even more closer to free when I launch Eat and Beauty. my skincare company. And that broke the $1 million mark in its first year. And I didn't build a team. I had a few VAs and outsourced customer service. But I did that all by myself, which I'm proud of, but was also a mistake because I had fear of letting people in and building a team. But that business is profitable, 22%. Learned a whole lot more. And these days, I teach copywriting, right? I mentor on mindset and on writing. I can still tear apart your headline and lead if you like. And I launched Diamond Day from the realization in coaching not just copywriters, but everybody, that they come looking for tactics, but what they need is something a little bit different. So I offer the mindset reframes. I offer new perspectives. I offer risks and pressure taking in a calculated way. So linearly, it looks something like this. Lost, to freelancer, to business owner, and then to leader. A lot of folks teach this model these days, but it's not so linear a path, right? But it does help take you from feast and famine to freedom. But what it really looks like is something more like this. Being a copywriter is integral to everything that I do. I can't help myself. Kevin Rogers calls it the curse. And being a copywriter is a very high income skill. So I would never want to throw that away. That doesn't make sense. It's cool to be a copywriter, I swear. And so I'm able to expand into the business owner realm and then into the leader realm. But what does that leader realm really mean? It means that I can bounce back and forth into doing whatever it is I want to do. I still do freelance copywriting. It's not like that has been left behind. I'm sure I will still grow new companies. It's not left behind. That's what being a diamond leader means to me. That's what freedom means to me. I'm free to pursue what I like. That all make sense? Coming up, we're going to do a diagnostic on where you are now and where you want to go. But before we do, I'm going to tap a little bit into the how we're going to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And here's the model that I made for it. It's a quadrilateral, a diamond. Everything that I've done in my coaching and throughout my own journey has fallen into 4 sections. Mindframe. I call it Mindframe, not mindset. Why? What did you say, Sam Marie? It's not sad? It's not sad. Yeah, it's not sad. You just put on a different frame. It's much easier to change. It can serve you way more. Your mindset, the baseline general demeanor of your mind and your attitude, it's important. But I focus on reframing your shit to unleash you. Of course, that ties into the business piece, right? I have more to say about Mindframe. So let's move back to that. You can choose your mind frame. That's why I picked that. You can't choose your mindset, really. You could try. Pressurizing your language is essential here. That might be my writer's bias, but we live in language like fish live in water. So it's incredibly important that we pay attention to our language and the stories you tell, right? My story, dirty DNA. Now that I have more understanding of this, I can write a different story. And stories combine your languages, your beliefs, your patterns, your history, your desires, your yearnings, and your future. So that's why it's so important. And abundance is a cornerstone belief in this framework, because if you believe resources are scarce, they will be scarce for you. You will act and you will find whatever confirms your belief. To the business quadrant. Business is a tool to get what we want, right? It's important to remember that, because sometimes we will say, we want to grow a really, really, really big business. But when we don't really know why, and things go wrong, and we don't get that really, really big business, you're like, what went wrong? Well, you didn't have a why for building a really big business, or even a what. A what is fine. What do you want out of this really big business? Sometimes business is its own ends for people who love the shit out of business. And that's cool too. Getting that clarity, you'll be able to retrofit all of your actions towards that. Within the business piece, you need clarity and conviction in the mission and the plan. I mean, without that, I don't think I need to belabor that. The packaging component doesn't just mean like the box you put your stuff in. It means the offers themselves, the brand identity, the values, the business as a whole. So we focus a lot of our work there. And then we focus our work on scaling. Systems, team, depth, and breadth. Team is how you scale. And so for a lot of my freelancers who are becoming offer owners, a challenge that usually arises is I have no experience leading other people. I've been a one-stop shop. Everything has gone through me. So there's a lot of learning and growth that comes into managing and building and cultivating a team, which is why I've invited one of the best in the world, Arya Bushari, to speak about it later. Which ties directly into leadership. For me, leadership means anything with a human touch. Delegation, on the other hand, is go send that invoice or go design that page. That's stuff I like to delegate. But when I want to connect with somebody, when I want to ask for some help, when I want to invite somebody somewhere, I do it. I get in the DMs and do it. And then once they say yes, Cameron sends them like 50 emails and here we are. Leadership doesn't just relate to business though. It's how you show up for your family, your community, your friends. There are many people in this room who do not want to build 100-person teams, but they still want to be a leader. So getting clarity and understanding on what you want your leadership style to be is hugely helpful. And that's why we work on that, which ties into the purpose and cause behind your leadership. How do you want to make people feel? I want to make people feel unleashed, motivated, and able, and worthy. So everything I work on connects back to that. And which leadership style serves you best? You and the cause is the best. Some are way more authoritarian. It's going to be this, this, this. Some prefer to bring in a board, more democratic. Sometimes when you're working with a board or leading a board, you'd say, I'm going to get your opinion on this, but I'm most likely going to do what I want to do anyway. That's a useful thing to say. Now everybody knows where you're at. Talent, risk, and time. Pressure is the vehicle through which all of this other stuff gets run. Because if you do not seek and harness and use pressure, it will find you. And then you are not in control of it. A very clear example is procrastination. We procrastinate, we procrastinate, we procrastinate. You had 2 weeks, now you have 1 day. The pressure is on. Maybe you still turn out good work. Maybe you don't. Maybe the work sucks. Maybe you're late. But you weren't in control of the pressure at all. How do we pressurize your talent to become exponentially more effective? No copywriter in this room needs to read another copywriting book. Now, if I ever create a copywriting course, you might get something out of it. But frankly, for everyone in this room, you will not need it. But what next layer of talent do you need to add on? Depends on your goals. But we need to get clarity there. And if you do want to become a more talented copywriter, we look to embodiment, right? How do I embody Carlton? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Occasionally, I will repeat myself or say the same thing in different ways because I want to be useful to you. I don't want to be smart or right by saying novel shit all of the time. Repetition is really helpful. So if I want to embody John Carlton, and John Carlton says, I want a headline to grab him by the throat, gets me going. All right, I want my headline to grab him by the throat. You don't need a new headline writing course for that, for everybody in this room. So we pressurize risk because we're taught to be risk averse, and our body and our nervous system desires to be risk averse. Makes sense, survival. But the risks will also come, no matter what. And you have to keep this in mind. Risk is everything you did not plan for. So if you made a contingency for X and a contingency for Y and a contingency for Z, those are not the true risks. The risks are everything else. The end of 2020, nobody had a contingency for COVID, most likely. So that was a risk. The more we understand that, the more we can create exponential risk to the upside. Jack buying 100 NFTs created exponential risk to the downside. And he learned a great lesson from it. It's always valuable. But if you just buy one or two, then you create the risk to the upside. And we pressurize time as well in both directions. Normally, it's how do we create things faster, faster, faster. But what I encourage you to do is pressurize time by taking on a longer time horizon. Those with a longer time horizon more often win because things don't get smashed and crushed together on them. If I said I want Diamond Day to be a 1,000-person mastermind this year, I might be fucked, right? It's a hard thing to do. But when I understand my long time horizon and I keep playing my game, I allow for all of the pieces to come together in time. Warren Buffett is the richest investor ever because he's been investing forever. There are others who have outperformed him, but because he's been in the game longer, he has made more money. It's quite simple. And a common trope I would say about this is we overestimate what we could do in a day and underestimate what we do in a year. We make daily tasks lists that are like 15 things long, and we don't get them all done. So when we think about this and expand our time horizons, we become so much more powerful. Given that, we will move into your diagnostic, which is the second sheet in your black folder. So what you see at the top of it, you give it to Stefan, is we look at, and it's effective given constraints of life, to depict this linearly, but keep in mind it is not linear. When we are here, it's truly the freedom to bounce around from all of them, okay? But given that, I'd like you to write an A, where you currently are, a B, which is a place you could rapidly be in, if you really chose it, if you really claimed it, and a C, with where you want to be by December 3rd, 2022. And maybe B and C are the same. Maybe for Ron Lynch, he has A, B, and C all at the end, all at level 4. Long time horizon. And then, underneath, we're going to deconstruct that and get a little bit more specific. So I have asked you some questions. Where were you last year? Whitney was working at a job she hated. Why did I ask that, by the way? That's a really important question. Because it gives us an opportunity to celebrate. And celebration is so important because it refuels your sense of deservedness. When you celebrate yourself, you're literally confirming your deservedness. And entrepreneurs are classically trash at doing that. So you need the nudge. Where are you now? Short description. Where will I be ready to rapidly ascend to after Diamond Day 2? And where will I be by December 2022? 6 months is not the longest time horizon in the world. I am aware. But we're beginning to chart the path. You can write this with an understanding that it's a potential new beginning time horizon that we'll keep working on together. YouTube thinks it knows you super duper well. They think you know which video you should watch next. Click over and see if they were right. I'll see you over there.